Welcome back. We're having a chat with Mayor Don Iveson. We just talked about Blatchford, and when we talk about that, a project like that, and you just think, man, we're just becoming the coolest city in the world, and we're doing all these futuristic type things, and then you sit at 75th behind a train crossing for half an hour, and you think that there's no 24-hour transit in the city. Are there some things that we're just missing still to be a real cosmopolitan center?
Hover trains.
That'd be boss.
Definitely hover trains.
Yeah.
No,
is that a possibility?
No, they're really, well, it is. They're called, we call them grade separations in the business, but it's a fancy word for overpass. And we've worked really successfully with one of the railways to separate a lot of the crossings around busy streets. We're on the north side, really, we're down to, which is where CN is, and I got to give them credit, we're down to just that one spur line across the Yellowhead, but very rarely is there a train there, and they're pretty good about not running them during rush hour there. So we've got a pretty good relationship with them there. On the south side of the city, where CP is a bigger player, we've got more crossings at 51st and 34th. Finally, 23rd is dealt with. And one of the lights at the end of the tunnel here is that as the city builds and as the railroads make different decisions, the CP is working on relocating a lot of their activity, including their intermodal yard, their container facility. Ultimately, they'll be moving that down closer to 41st Avenue, which is south of the Henday even, so right down by towards Nisku, really. So as they relocate that, a lot of their shunting activity that goes back and forth across 51st and 34th, that's going to move way further south where there are no crossings. So 41st Avenue will go over it, 23rd Avenue goes over it. That's going to provide a lot of relief on the south side. Now, some of the crossings between 50th and 75th, there's going to continue to be challenges, and they're very difficult locations to grade separate because you'd be hard pressed to close it. This is the other thing too. I mean, we're kind of stuck with some of these legacies. So one of the things we need to think about, it goes back to some of the big questions, is if there's going to be more petroleum moving by rail because we can't get pipelines, which is really frustrating, then we're going to have more and more train traffic and it going through cities, and that raises questions. And Councillor Ed Gibbons has been doing some really good work on this, thinking about we need some bypasses around the city. We need some utility corridors, and people have been talking about utility corridors for a long time, but we need utility corridors, especially for rail, for high voltage transmission, and for pipelines that go well around the city from a risk management point of view. Now, the province has been talking about building a ring road as well that would potentially have space for all these things, but my view is separate the road infrastructure from this energy and transportation and rail infrastructure. And if we do a proper bypass around the city, that would take care of some of the traffic that's running through on that line on 75th, which you're concerned with. So over time, we need to move some of that industrial and major transportation, major goods movement activity out around the city, so that only what's coming into the city is the stuff that's doing business in the city and not traveling through the city. So that's going to come with time. And we're talking about that at a regional level with the Capital Region Board planning that we're doing right now, and we're talking with the province about it. So I don't have a short-term relief. The other thing is that the feds really regulate rail crossings, and they have a rule that a train can't be stationary in a crossing for more than, I think it's 5 minutes. But if the train moves a little bit slowly, sort of like moving your car, right?
That's right.
Sometimes, I get tweets from people who are like, I've been here for 53 minutes, and that is incredibly frustrating, and I say, please share that experience with your member of parliament.